This is question 3. Here we're given the ingredients needed to make 8 shortbread biscuits. We're given those ingredients here. We're then told that Tarek is going to make some shortbread biscuits and he has the following ingredients. We're then asked to work out the greatest number of shortbread biscuits that Tarek can make with his ingredients. Now the first thing that I'm going to do to make this a little easier is I'm going to change the quantities of the ingredients so that instead of it being enough to make 8 biscuits, I'm going to work out how much we would need for 1 biscuit. Because if I find out how much we would need for 1 biscuit, I can then just take that amount and divide it by our quantities here. And that would tell me how many I would be able to make. Just taking the quantity needed for 1 biscuit and dividing it by each ingredient. And that will tell me the exact number that I'd be able to make. So let's take a look at this. So if 8 biscuits is making, if 120 grams is making 8 biscuits, how much butter would I need for just 1 biscuit? And the calculation that I'm going to need to do there is going to be 120 divided by 8. So 120 divided by 8, that's going to give me 15. So I'm going to need 15 grams of butter. Then, to work out how much sugar I'm going to need, I need to do 60 divided by 8. Now, this is a little bit trickier, 60 divided by 8. Maybe some of you can already spot that it's 7.5. If you're not sure how to do 60 divided by 8, remember you can use a bus stop method where we write 60 underneath the bus stop, 8 on the outside, and then ask how many 8s fit into 6? 0. How many 8s then will fit into 60? We can say that that is 7 with a remainder of 4. Now, we don't want to write 7 remainder 4, we want it as a proper decimal. And so what we can do is we can just put our decimal after the 60, and we can say that 60 is the same as 60.0. So we could put our remainder of 4 next to that placeholder. So then how many 8s fit into 40? So decimal stays in the same place. How many 8s fit into 40? I could say that's 5. So if you're struggling with 60 divided by 8, obviously you can use a bus stop method to do that. Then the last one, 180, let's just write that in there. So 7.5 grams of sugar. And then the last one, 180 divided by 8. That's going to leave me with 22.5. A little trick that you could have done there, and how I worked that out without doing any calculations, was I've already done 120 divided by 8. I've done 60 divided by 8. And 120 and 60 added together gives me 180. And so I can just add my answers together for that. So 22.5 for 180 divided by 8. Okay, so now we know how much is needed for 1 biscuit. All that's left for us to do is to take each of our amounts needed for 1 biscuit and do 330. So we've got 330 grams of butter. We know we need 15 grams for 1 biscuit. So how many lots of 15 grams could I use? How many lots of 15 grams could I use up with 330 grams of butter? So 330 divided by 15. And that is going to give me an answer of, and again, we could use a bus stop method for this. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to think that how many 15s are there in 300, which is double 150. So 15s in 150 is 10. 15s in 300 then would be 20. And then, so there are 20 15s in 300. And then how many 15s would be in 30? That's 2. And so 330 divided by 15 is going to give me 22. Obviously, this is a non-calculator paper, so you are going to need to find methods that work for you when you're making these calculations. So if we used up all of the butter, I'd be able to make 22 biscuits. Let's do the same thing with the sugar. So 200 divided by the amount needed for one biscuit, so 200 divided by 7.5, and that is going to give me so 200 divided by 7.5. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to start by saying that so 10 7.5s would be 75, which means that 20 7.5s would be 150, and then if I know that 20 7.5s is 150, that means that I've only got 50 left. So how many 7.5s are left in that 50? And then I can say that that is going to be, so 7.5s and 50, that is going to be 6 with a remainder. So that's going to mean that I'm going to have a maximum number of biscuits as 26. 20 7.5s in 150, and then 7.5s left in the 50 that's left over would be 6. So that gives me 26 biscuits. And now the last one to look at is flour. And for flour, I'm going to have to take 450 grams, and then I'm going to divide that by 22.5. So how many 22.5s could I use up? And so this one, 450 divided by 22.5. So again, I'm going to use a similar method. There were two 22.5s in 45, and that means that in 450, that means I would have 10 lots of 45, which means I would have 20 lots of 22.5. So my answer here is going to be 20 biscuits. So what is the highest number of biscuits that Tarek can make? And my answer here is actually going to be 20 biscuits, because I do not have the ingredients. I don't have enough flour to make 22 biscuits, and I don't have enough flour or sugar to make 26. So whilst this is the lowest number in terms of the number of biscuits that I could make, I could only make 20 biscuits. That's the most number that I could make, because I wouldn't have enough ingredients to make, I wouldn't have enough flour to make 22 or 26. So final answer would be 20 biscuits.